to the What Bitcoin Did podcast.
Hi there, how are you all? Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast, brought to you by Kraken, the best place to buy, sell and trade digital currencies. I'm your host, Peter McCormack. Today I have an interview with Adam Ficsor from Wasabi Wallet, but before that, I've got a message from my show sponsors. So Dropbit, my new sponsor, I've been talking about them for a couple of weeks now. The best Bitcoin wallet on the market. Have you checked them out yet? Have you downloaded it? It's a pretty cool app. I've been using it quite a bit now, actually. I'll tell you something funny. I didn't really have a mobile app that I was using regularly before. I had one and I downloaded it. It just sat there. It didn't have any Bitcoin in. I wasn't using it. But now I've got Dropbit and had it loaded up because I gave a bunch of Bitcoin away. It's now something I'm using. It's kind of changed my experience with Bitcoin, because previously, whenever I was sending people Bitcoin, I was just doing it from my hardware wallet, but that always required me to either be with my hardware wallet and be with a laptop. But now I've got a mobile wallet. I'm actually using it quite regularly. I think I've done it 4 times maybe now, that I've just had a reason to send someone some Bitcoin. And because I've got the wallet in my pocket, I can take it out and send, and it's really quick and do it in like a couple of clicks. So that's really cool. I think that's actually achieving what they've set out to do, which is getting people to start sending Bitcoin to each other a bit more regularly. So yes, very cool. I'm going to be heading out to New York next week for Consensus, and I'm going to stick a couple of $1,000s of Bitcoin in my Dropbit wallet. If you see me out there and you want some Bitcoin, come and find me. I'll send you a few dollars. Can't wait to show you the app. And if you want to check it out, it's available for iPhone and Android. Just head over to dropbit.app, which is DROPBIT.app. And BlockFi, the future of crypto and financial services. Love these guys. Been working with them for a very long time now. And about a week ago, I signed up for their interest accounts. I put 20% of my Bitcoin in there. I was putting my Bitcoin where my mouth is. And today, I got my first interest payment, which was very cool. I logged into the app, saw my statement, saw that I had received some additional Bitcoin and interest payout, which is really cool. So my Bitcoin's working for me. Now, I wouldn't put all of my Bitcoin in there, but I'm certainly happy to have 20% in there. I trust them. I trust the model. What do you think about it? Have you tried it out yet? If you have, I would love to hear from you. And if you haven't and you want to check it out, then I recommend you definitely do your own research. But if you are interested, head over to blockfi.com, which is BLOCKFI.com. Okay, so on to my interview with Adam. And I think this one is going to be a good example of why I think my lack of technical knowledge is sometimes helpful with interviews. Now, Adam did a really great interview with Stefan Livera. I recommend you check it out. It's available in the show notes. But I think my interview is going to be slightly different. I think the reason being is that a few people have recommended that I check out Wasabi Wallet now. So on the morning of the interview, I downloaded it to have a play with it. And, you know, it wasn't easy. And that's not me wanting to take anything away from them. I understand the importance of what they're doing. But something like Wasabi Wallet is a bit too advanced for me. I mean, the first thing I ran into is I wasn't able to send Bitcoin from my ledger because it doesn't support the Betch32 addresses. I only found that out by going to Reddit. So look, I do my research. I do go and try and find these things out, but I couldn't get it to do it. And also kind of clicking around the app, there were a few things I didn't really understand. I didn't understand how CoinJoin works. And I think this is useful. As I said, I don't think this takes away from the work they're doing. I know there's going to be some people who are a bit frustrated about this, but if we're going to have something like privacy for all, I think it's important that there's people like me who maybe aren't so technical having a play and giving some feedback on the user experience. I do think the work they're doing is important. I do think privacy is important. I do think fungibility is important. But I also see that some of the complexities of this are going to have to be abstracted away to make it more useful for like a broader set of users. Anyway, I do love the work they're doing. I do appreciate Adam coming on the show. I do appreciate him suffering my kind of questions about the user experience. And if you've got any feedback on this, you want to get in touch with me, you know you can reach out to me. Just drop me an email. And listen, if you want to support the show, there's a section on my website. If you head over to whatbitcoindid.com, click on the sports section that explains everything you can do. And I do want to say a big thank you to my Patreon top tier sponsor, which is Rise Wallet, a new way into Bitcoin. No signups. You just scan a card and you are holding Bitcoin. Check this out at risewallet.com. Okay, on to the interview. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com. Hi there, Adam. How are you?
Hey, Peter. I'm great.
Thank you for your patience in getting this interview together, because I wanted to download the Wasabi wallet before we spoke, because I wanted to have a play with it and see how I got on and see what my experience was, so we can include that within the interview. So thank you for your patience. But how are you? How is everything at Wasabi?
Yeah, it's great. Just a quick question. When did you download it? Because I just released the new version with many updates. yesterday, so like not even 24 hours ago.
I downloaded it this morning.
Okay. That's probably good.
Well, yeah, but we'll come to it because I did have some problems which I want to talk through with you.
OS.
Mac OS. But
It seems like at the first start with the new release on Mac OS, it freezes, and after that it works. I'm not happy about it.
yeah, it didn't freeze for me. That didn't happen.
No?
No, I got in fine, but in trying to use it, I came across some difficulties. But I think it's mainly because I'm not the most competent, as everybody knows full well and keeps reminding me I'm not the most technically competent. But look, we'll come to that. So I listened to your interview with Stefan Rivera, which was great, and you've covered a number of things in there. I don't really feel we need to cover again because people can listen to that excellent interview. But it would be good, though, just for my listeners, for you just to give a background of how the Wasabi wallet came to be and why privacy was something you wanted to focus on.
Whew, how much time do you have?
I got plenty.
So this whole thing started out with when I got into Bitcoin, and I was a .NET developer and I had nothing to work with. I wanted to build stuff on Bitcoin, but there were no tools for .NET yet. And later, a year or two later, Nicolas Dorier came out with his .NET library called Bitcoin, and that started out my .NET developer career in Bitcoin. And I wanted to find a project to work on, and I saw this thing called Join Market. Join Market is a Bitcoin mixer, very, very clever way to solve the liquidity issue that Bitcoin mixers have when they start out. And I thought that this was just a command line tool and it has no user interface, but so many people were so excited about it. And I said to myself, I just write a user interface for it and people start to use my software and I'm going to be happy. Now, from there on, I started to encounter issues and more issues. And I learned more and more about privacy and why is it so hard in Bitcoin. And this led to me writing Hidden Wallet, which has later been renamed to Wasabi Wallet, what you're using today. So I was not a freedom fighter. I just had technical issues I wanted to solve and iterated forward, and now it's the last iteration of my privacy wallet software that sees a lot of users. Like, yeah, I'm happy.
And why is privacy so hard in Bitcoin?
Well, because the ledger is public, so it's really hard to hide information when everyone has to verify that no one's cheating the system. And well, we figured out ways to do that with Monero and other cryptocurrencies, but they break consensus, so they are other cryptocurrencies. But in Bitcoin, it's even harder because some things are not baked into the protocol, and that's what I am working on because Bitcoin is the most used and I want people to use my software.
Let's talk about fungibility and privacy. So they're not exactly the same thing. Some people automatically assume fungibility means privacy, but they're actually two separate things, right?
It really depends on what point of view you are looking at it, right? Fungibility is mainly an economic concept. Privacy, maybe you should tie it to law, right? And then there is anonymity, unobservability. These things are more like the technical concepts. Okay, so fungibility, it just means interchangeability. You have to have this property for money, because if you lose too much fungibility in a money, then you are going to see the consequences, or just no one's going to use your money. And this ties into privacy, which fungibility is a systemic issue, systemic property of the money. Privacy is a human right. It's more like the micro. Fungibility is the macro. And so privacy is what you want to achieve personally for yourself. Fungibility is that as we, a collective, want to achieve for the Bitcoin ecosystem. And how do we achieve privacy? How do we achieve anonymity? How do we achieve fungibility? We achieve it through building systems. Those have strong anonymity properties. And if we fail, because anonymity is not unobservability, so there is a chance that we fail, and governments or exchanges or regulators, whoever they are, want to blacklist anonymity things. So people should not try for anonymity. Then we can still default back and try to build systems. Those are achieving more like unobservability, and the Lightning Network is a great example for that. It's really hard to build anonymity on the Lightning Network because your privacy is very hard to quantify. But because the Lightning Network builds unobservability in a way that it takes away data, it hides data, and anonymity is more like you are undeniably anonymous within a set of people. So that's the relationship between the concepts as I see it. But as you can see, it ties into so many fields: law, economy, economics, and what's the tech? Yeah.
So essentially, fungibility is a property of privacy. So the goal with Wasabi is to create fungibility so that there aren't tainted coins. The governments can't identify coins as tainted, and therefore there isn't any risk or situation where you are using or passing on tainted coins. The privacy side of this is whereby you then have the ability to send and receive coins without being tracked. Is that a fair analysis?
Yes, it's a fair analysis, definitely.
So I've heard people say before that fungibility isn't so important in Bitcoin because there isn't yet a market for tainted coins. And if there were, I think it was maybe Dan Held said he would buy up the cheap tainted coins, bounce them 2 or 3 times and sell them again. Have you heard these kind of explanations?
I heard this kind of explanation, but I don't really know where to put them. Sure, because there are no market for clean and unclean or whatever tainted coins, because that we can say that Bitcoin did not lost the war in fungibility. That's a very good argument. I'm not sure any more conclusion, or what kind of conclusions can you conclude from this notion that there is no market.
Fair enough. Okay, so how do you achieve fungibility with Wasabi Wallet? What is it you're doing in the background to make this happen?
There are 2 very important aspects of it. One is the network level privacy, and the other one is the blockchain level privacy. On the network level privacy, it's about how you are broadcasting your transactions. Do you expose your IP address to other people? And how you are establishing your wallet balance, because every light wallet establishes your wallet balance by querying from someone, right? And if I ask you, hey, how much money do I have on this address, or how much money do I have on this other address, then you will know that, hey, this 2 address is mine, and how much money I have, which is not ideal. So this is the network level aspect of Wasabi. We actually achieved just with the yesterday release the theoretical best network level privacy that we can have in cryptocurrency. So that is awesome. I can go into the details later if you ask me. In a very short summary, we are using Tor for everything, and we are changing Tor identities basically between every actions we are taking when we are fetching blocks, when we are broadcasting transactions. And the other big feature, big aspect of privacy is the blockchain level privacy. So you had issues using Wasabi, or maybe you are just not that used to it, that when you receive a coin from someone, then it actually shows up in your wallet as a coin and not as a wallet balance. Maybe that was the most confusing part for you.
Well, we can work through it, actually. And none of this is a criticism, because I understand you guys are very early on and this is very early work. And I always try and represent my work from the people who are less technical, less knowledgeable, don't have the skills to maybe figure a lot of the complex things out. So I think that's maybe some of the problems I'm having. So my experience of wallets are, I have primarily two wallets I use. I have a mobile wallet, which I keep a very small amount of Bitcoin in. I'm currently using Dropbit, as I think you're aware. And I also have a hardware wallet. And the experience on both is pretty easy, really. If I'm using my mobile wallet and I've got to send to somebody, I can just point my camera at a QR code and send, and off it goes. And all the hard work's done for me. And very similar with my hardware wallet. But when I went to set up my Wasabi wallet, it's obviously an extra level of complexity. I had no problem, by the way, setting it up, but I do have a couple of questions about it. So when I first set up, it said, you cannot recover your wallet without your password. Therefore, we strongly advise you to use a password that you will not forget. So the first thing I thought about with that was like, that kind of implies I should use a password which is almost like a regular password. But isn't that slightly risky? Shouldn't I be using a completely unique and independent password?
Well, do you mean you want to use some kind of asterisk that a password manager gives you?
Yeah.
You can use it. You just don't forget it, right? This is the responsibility that comes with using Bitcoin. If you lose your private keys, then you lost your money.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I kind of felt like the language probably should have been more like, make sure you do not lose this password, because the language of make sure you use a password that you will not forget, it kind of implies it's one I need to remember in my head. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes.
That might be a language shift that might be slightly better. And then it only asked me to put my password in once. And so I thought, what if I make a mistake putting it in? What would happen? Why don't you ask people to put the password in twice?
We were asking people to put the password in twice. We had a lot of, everyone is worried about if they get hacked, but we never get any reports about people getting hacked, but we got so many about people forgetting their passwords. So we started to reconsider, maybe we can improve somehow this password handling stuff. Okay, so this was one of the implemented strategy, to only have one password box when you are choosing your password. So what are you going to do? You're gonna get a bit you have your adrenaline go up in, okay, if I write this password wrong, then I might lose my money. But the trick is that after you recover your after the mnemonic words are written down, the usual stuff, after that you actually been taken to a password tester, and you are testing. You are not, we don't let you in your wallet until you test your password at least once, right? So people write their passwords in when you have two password books, password and password confirmation. They write in and they make the exact same typo. It's like they still have it in their working memory. But then if you have only one password box and then you have to do something else, and then after that we are going to ask you the password, then you you will not have it in your working memory, so you have to remember back, and that's when you will get the verification. So this was a test, but it's extremely successful, because the last 2 months, when we implemented these strategies to make you not forget your password, it's unorthodox, but we didn't get any password lost requests. So I'm really happy about that, actually.
Oh, so that's good. So how come you can't restore just from the seed alone? How come you need the seed and the password?
Okay, there are multiple reasons for that. Power users want to use passphrases, but again, then people if you have to use a passphrase, then chances are you're going to use your password. So why not just have the same? I don't even. Okay, so what is a passphrase? You have the 12 recovery phase, and then you add another word for it. That's the passphrase. And let's just have it the same as your password. So it's very insecure to simply have the 12 recovery words. If you simply have the 12 recovery words, anyone can see it and recreate your wallet, right? I didn't actually know that wallets were doing this to give you 12 words that you have to store securely. I don't think that's a good idea. So let's just salt those words with your password, and then the attacker needs to know your password and your recovery phases. So your maid is not going to do anything with your recovery phases, except if you're using a password manager and not keeping your password in your mind, right?
Yeah, I guess I felt like if I have to hide my seed somewhere, and then I have to hide a seed and a password.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people are using password managers, but I think that's a minority, I would say. I mean, the best way to keep your password, and I'm doing this since university, so very, very long time, and you have to have an algorithm for your password. So here is a website you want to log in, and based on the website, your algorithm that generates your password. That algorithm is very, very simple, and it's in your head. So and this way you get a different password for every single service you are using, and you always remember, because you know the algorithm and no one else knows the algorithm. So if one service gets hacked, the other one won't. That's my thing. So password managers, yes, then you have to write down the password with the mnemonic words if you are doing the password manager stuff. I'm not a fan of them, but I mean, these are pretty much implementation details. Maybe we can go on some more interesting topics, but give me your opinion.
Yeah, well, I guess for me, I found it kind of confusing because and scary, because it said if you lose your password, then you've lost your wallet. And I was thinking, oh, damn. So there's two things I need to actually keep a record of now. But anyways, so I went into the wallet and I created my first wallet. And the first thing I went to do was trying to receive. So I set up a test payment, and it forced me to have a label, which I thought was quite interesting because I've never been forced to have a label on payments before. Why is a label required?
It's because after you make some transactions, you will see on your CoinJoin tab, we are doing some blockchain analysis, and we are trying to, when you see a coin in your tab, then we put labels next to it. Those are the wallet clusters of yours. So those labels next to your coin are not actually the label of your coin, but those are wallet clusters. There's are multiple labels. So we are doing some blockchain analysis heuristics, and we are trying to figure out, hey, these coins might be in the same cluster. So this might be what blockchain analysis sees from your wallet. So for example, if you get 5 Bitcoin from Coinbase and 0.1 Bitcoin from me, and then you send this 5.1 Bitcoin to someone else, then you are making a transaction where you join together the 2 coins of yours. Now, what Coinbase will see is that, hey, this other coin was yours too, which is not ideal. So then you would have the label. If you would have a change output, you would have a label that, hey, this is the change of a Coinbase and Adam and an Opera and another thing who you sent the money. So you can see, hey, those coins are well figured out that they are associated with each other, right? And this is what the CoinJoin is for, to actually break these associations. But you can use Wasabi without even CoinJoining at all, and you can just see the associations and make very easy decisions that, hey, I might don't want to send this money that I got from this shady guy to someone. I don't know, whatever you can figure out. This is the issue with right building privacy on public ledgers. You have to keep track of things, but I think it makes it easy for you. You just have to make some transactions and everything will make sense very, very, very quickly, I think.
So do you see blockchain analysis as the enemy?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yes. So yes, I consider blockchain analysis as our adversary because they are the most advanced adversary one can choose who is building a privacy wallet. Now, we don't consider the lookup police if it goes into your house and forces you to decrypt your computer. They are not our adversaries. So if they decrypt your computer, then they will see everything on your disk. Well, or if it's not decrypted, right? Because you don't have to decrypt it. And never mind. So our adversary is blockchain analysis and not these traditional kind of attacks, because they have there are already solutions for these traditional attacks, like using VeraCrypt, where you encrypt your stuff, and then you have like a secret encryption layer. And when someone goes into your house and forces you to get your stuff, then you open the secret encryption layer. But you know, these problems are already solved, and not the most usable way, but they are already solved and people can use it. What's not already solved is to protect you against blockchain analysis. So that's the thing. We are looking for solutions.
So I went to send myself some Bitcoin. I wanted to send from one of my wallets into my Wasabi wallet and just have a play with it. And I wasn't able to do it. So I tried from both my Dropbit mobile wallet and I tried from a ledger. And neither are able to. They just wouldn't send. They had a problem with the address. Obviously, these are... Is it pronounced Beck or Betch?
I think it's Batch. When Peter Willie wrote the BIP, he said, hey, let's call it Batch 32 addresses because it sounds like Batch.
Because these are Batch 32 addresses, right? So I'm guessing they're just not universally compatible.
Yes.
So can you explain to me what a Batch 32 address is and why it's different from, say, other addresses?
Okay, so you might see there are a lot of philosophical arguments for and against SegWit and native SegWit and all this kind of stuff. We are not taking any philosophical sides. We are using Batch 32 addresses because we have to use them. I'm not going into why we have to use them. It's something about malleability and CoinJoins. and how you are establishing your balances. But the point is that these addresses are smaller. So you make a transaction and it's going to be cheaper than you would make a transaction from a normal wallet. And the adoption of these addresses is very, very fast. So right now, the only big services left who didn't implement it yet is Binance, Bitfinex, and Ledger. Actually, I even opened an issue, and anyone who's listening, who's a JavaScript developer or Node.js developer, look at the Ledger's GitHub, and I have a 0.1 Bitcoin bounty for anyone who is implementing Batch32 send ability.
Well, so that's essentially when the experience broke down for me as a non-technical person, right? So I tried to send twice, and then, and I am a non-technical person. I often get criticized for it, but I'm very comfortable with being that non-technical person because I think a lot of people will go through similar experiences of mine for kind of the big mass adoption. We have to have a better user experience. And this isn't a criticism. It's just like, this is where the experience broke down. I did obviously then go online and do a search for Batch32 addresses and why I can't. And I obviously then found out that Ledger doesn't support it. And then I assumed it was the same for my Dropbit wallet. But that was where the experience broke down for me. And I was like, oh, okay. So really, it's just waiting for universal support of these addresses.
Okay, two very important things here. First, we wanted to add, okay, you can receive to other kind of addresses, but that's not going to be that private. But we wanted to hack it around, but the adoption lately went so fast. And actually, we helped testing and implementing it to Bitcoin J, which is a Java library, which is a lot of big services are relying on. And now they gave out the release. So the point is that now we see the adoption is happening so fast that we are thinking about maybe we just don't bother with it. It just doesn't worth it. This was one, and the second very important thing is that Batch32 sendability is relatively simple and extremely non-controversial to implement. So if you are using a wallet or a service that cannot send to Batch32, that's a very, very strong sign that that service has not everything in order, and you might want to change it regardless of if you need to send to Batch32 or not, because they either don't have good developers or any developers or something, but there is something seriously wrong with the service that still cannot send to Batch32. So just keep that in mind. Yeah.
So you think there's something seriously wrong with Ledger, Binance, and Bitfinex then?
Yes.
Next up, I talked to Adam more about the Wasabi Wallet and the importance of privacy and fungibility. But before that, I've got a message from my show sponsors. So first up, we're going to talk about Kraken, the single best exchange in the world for buying and selling Bitcoin, the only place I use now for my Bitcoin. They've got over 4 million clients. Over $140 billion has been traded on the exchange since 2011, so they definitely know what they're doing. They've over 20 assets listed with up to 5x leverage, and they have 24/7 chat support. And I mentioned previously I was going to be catching up with their lead product designer. Well, this happened this week. We had a Skype call and she walked me through everything they're working on. Showed me a bunch of designs, some new product things that are coming. I can't tell you about them now because they've sworn me to secrecy. All I can say is it's amazing. Very exciting stuff. As it becomes available, I'll be releasing it to you. I'll be telling you about it a bit closer to the time. All I can say is, look, there's some really cool stuff coming to Kraken, and which I just can't wait to show you. But if you want to join me in supporting Kraken, the best crypto exchange in the world, head over to kraken.com, which is KRAKEN.com. That is kraken.com, which is KRAKEN.com. And BlockFi. I mentioned in the intro that I signed up to the interest account. I've got my first statement. It happened this week. It was super cool. I logged in this morning, had a look, and I made some Bitcoin interest. My Bitcoin, which I deposited them, have started work for me. I mentioned I deposited about 20% of my Bitcoin with them, which was the amount I was willing to put into this. I didn't want to put all of my Bitcoin, But yeah, 20%'s in there and it's earning interest for me rather than just being sat in my wallet doing nothing. Now, listen, if you're going to check it out, I do recommend you do your own research. There's an interview I did with Zach Prince, the CEO, which is available on SoundCloud, where he answers a whole bunch of questions people have about the products. But I think it's super cool. I like it. I like the interest I'm earning. I'm really happy to have some of my Bitcoin there. And if you do want to check it out, then head over to blockfi.com, which is blockfi.com. And also, I keep saying, head into Consensus next week. How many of you are heading out there? Are you excited? I can't wait to get there. I'm going to be reaching New York on Tuesday, but I might head up to Chicago. But you should definitely check it out. I'm going to be recording some interviews there. I'm also looking forward to checking out some of the talks. There's some really interesting people I really want to see speak. Definitely looking forward to seeing Christian Decker speak. Also looking forward to John Carvalho. There's a really great Bitcoiner speaking there. So you definitely want to check it out. And if you're not and you haven't got a ticket yet, you can get one at consensus2019.com. And I've got a special discount for you. Consensus with a U, which is CONSENSUS 2019.com. And if you use the discount code BitcoinDid300, you can get $300 off your ticket. So definitely come to Consensus, check it out, come and hang out, come to the parties, make some new friends. It's going to be a cool event. I'm really looking forward to it to myself. That's consensus2019.com, which is CONSENSUS 2019.com. I think one of the things that always comes to my mind is previously I was a UX designer, so I'm sometimes hypercritical. And my favorite book was a Steve Krug book, which I've brought up in a few interviews. It's called Don't Make Me Think. And in the process of this, I have to think, and I have to then go and search on Reddit and find things and find out why things don't exist. So for me as a UX person was like, this just falls apart as an experience. And like I say, it's not a criticism of you. I appreciate the work you're doing. I've spoken to lots of people. I know you're universally loved for what you're doing. So I guess one of the things I'm getting at is that you guys are just super early now. What you're building is essentially the building blocks of what the future Wasabi wallet will look like. And I guess when you get into Virtua 3, 4, 5, a lot of these things may be abstracted away.
You are 100% right, and I'm very happy that you reminded me about this, because I need to be reminded very, very often, because so you wouldn't imagine, but I'm the only person who tries to keep the things consistent and coherent, and every day people keep opening issues, pull requests, anything. Those are complicating. Even if that's a good idea, those are complicating the user experience and getting more and more, well, Wasabi is getting more and more powerful, but I'm really not actually happy about the fact that we are getting harder and harder to use. And actually we were just talking about maybe, so for one thing is that a lot of people get it right away, and they think the user experience is great. But there are people like you, and I think you guys are just silent about it. Don't tell me, but there are people who don't get it right away, and I think this is extremely important to make a seamless user experience. That's one of the most important thing that seems to be only I care about in among the developers. Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's because people always talk about mass adoption. They always talk about, mass adoption, hyper Bitcoinization, and everyone will be eventually using Bitcoin. And I always try and think of the 5 or 6 people I meet with once a month down the pub. And what you've got amongst them, you've got one person who will be remotely interested in Bitcoin and will kind of figure things out. And then you've got 4 or 5 people who just kind of, they don't. And if you put something like Wasabi Wallet in front of them and say, this is the future of how you're going to spend money, it's not going to work for them, because they're just going to be like, huh? They essentially need user experiences similar to like Cash App or PayPal, where they don't have to think, and it is all kind of obvious. So my thing about Wasabi is that it's clearly very cool. The things you're doing are amazing, but I don't think you are, say, at the point where you're consumer friendly yet, because that's going to take time, right?
I don't know. are we not in a point where we are consumer friendly? I mean, we can do a lot more things for sure, but I would say it's already pretty easy if you have ever used a Bitcoin wallet before in your life. Have you used Electrum before?
Yeah, I've used Electrum. I've used a variety of wallets at different points. And I guess it was things like, I tried to send to myself and I couldn't, and I didn't understand what a Betch32 was, and that's why it didn't work. There's things like that, but I think that's just an inherent part of Bitcoin, is that occasionally things don't work how you want, and maybe you do then have to go online and do a little bit of a search, and there is a bit of an investigation. But my assumption is that, like I said to you before, when you get to version 2 or 3, most of these problems are going to be abstracted away, and it's going to be a much simpler experience. Because, you want privacy for all. I heard your interview with Stefan. You said, I want privacy for all, and I think that's obviously an amazing goal. But I do think there are a lot of aspects within Bitcoin and the user experience that at the moment don't offer privacy for all, because it's quite complicated to actually take control of your privacy. It's okay if you're an experienced long-term Bitcoiner and you've spent years using different wallets, etc. But if you came in new to Bitcoin, I think there's still a lot of things that are very hard and very difficult to get your head around.
But what's the underlying problem with this is that it's like the internet, right? The features and the stuff are moving so fast that UX don't have time to keep up with it. And from a point of view, this is a very, very good sign, because we are improving the base layer way too fast. So people don't have time to write good UX for it yet, because it's just changing and getting better. But after that, when regulators will come in and then tell us to license every line of code that we write, or whatever they tell us, then finally we will have time to actually figure out the UX. Yeah, that's how I think about it.
So let me ask you about some other things. So at the bottom of my wallet, it says it's connecting, and it says to me, Tor is not running, backend is not connected, peers 0. Is there something I'm meant to do here to have this set up and running?
No, I think that's a bug. How long are you doing that?
So my wallet's been open for probably an hour.
Yeah, that's a bug. Tor is not running. That's what it says. So it means, Tor is the anonymity network that we are using. So we launch the Tor process in the background, and everything should be just working. And actually, if Tor is not running, then the wallet will act strangely, not as you want it to act. So while I'm not trying to debug it live,
Yeah.
but yes, that's the error message to, hey, things are not working properly.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm still going to stick with Wasabi and learn my way with it. Okay, so let's talk about CoinJoin, because CoinJoin is something I've heard about, but it's not something I've ever actually used myself. So can you explain to me what CoinJoin is, what the background to it is, and how it works?
Well, let's approach it from a perspective that people might be familiar with traditional Bitcoin mixers. So how do they work? You send them the money, and they send back you different money. That's the idea. What is the problem with that is that sometimes they don't send back you the money, which is not good. The other problem with that is that they can de-anonymize you, right? You don't have privacy against them. So what does CoinJoin do? CoinJoin in general does to not be able to steal the money from you. It doesn't add any privacy against them, CoinJoin in itself, but at least they cannot steal your money. And Xiaomi and CoinJoin adds the privacy part to it. So that's what we are doing. We have a coordinator, and with Xiaomi and CoinJoin, we cannot steal the money and cannot de-anonymize our users. So we have basically a passive observer of of having communication going through us, but that doesn't we cannot do anything about it. Why we cannot steal your money with CoinJoin? Why no one can steal your money if you're using CoinJoin? It's because CoinJoin works in a way that I have a transaction and you have a transaction, and those transactions are not signed by us. So if we would give those transactions out to the network, then hey, these transactions are not signed. So anyway, now we merge together our transactions, what we want to make, and look at the transaction. And if the money in some transaction outputs goes to where we want them to go, that's when we sign. If we don't see those transaction outputs in the transaction, in the common transaction, then we don't sign the transaction. So this is mathematically impossible to lose money with CoinJoin because of this.
So with CoinJoin, if I wanted to make a payment for something, it essentially mixes my payment with a whole bunch of other people's payments. And what's happening there? Is it creating lots of new UTXOs? Is it mixing up the UTXOs? How does it actually work?
It can be done. Paying with CoinJoin can be done. We don't have it yet.
Okay. So this is just a way of mixing then?
Yes, to yourself. It's always going back to yourself.
Can you talk me through, like in idiot layman terms, say I've got a number of Bitcoin here in my Wasabi wallet. I would use CoinJoin to essentially scramble the history of them?
Yes. That's actually exactly, yeah.
Right, so I'm essentially creating a bunch of fresh coins out of the same coins so they can't be tracked. How does it actually work? How does it actually do that?
A transaction has input and output. So I can add 5 inputs to the transaction and 2 outputs, and you can add 6 more inputs to the same transaction and 1 output. That's the basic idea. So that's how you are merging different transactions, different payment intents with each other. And we can go into how it works in so many levels. I'm not sure. Maybe you want to lead with something that you are familiar with regarding privacy, and I can go with that line of thinking.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand myself from a user's perspective, how it actually works. So, because I don't understand this stuff. My experience of Bitcoin is I don't even get involved in UTXOs. You know, and I know you can do that. I know you can go to that level of detail if you're technical enough, but I don't. You know, when I want to send, say if I wanted to send you some Bitcoin after this, Adam, I just go into my wallet and put in your address, click send, and it just automatically deducts from my balance. But I don't get involved in that level of detail. With your wallet, I can actually anonymize the history of all my coins, right? But I don't understand how that works, and I just thought that would be quite interesting to understand.
Yeah, it's very, very simple. You just go to the CoinJoin tab, click NQ coins, wait a day, and you have mixed coins. It just works by itself.
So it just sends out a bunch of UTXOs and returns a whole different set?
Yes.
And they can't be tracked. Someone like Chain Analysis can't track those and see where they've all been mixed and sent.
No, unless you do some very stupid things. Like a very stupid thing to do is send all your money from your hardware wallet there, mix all your money, and then send all your money back
to your hardware wallet. So you essentially send almost the same amount back.
Yes, and not just that, but because your hardware wallet is probably so. Let's say you have what do you have? Oh, Ledger.
I've got a Trezor, I've got a Ledger, and a KeepKey. I've got them all to just try them all.
Yes. So what is happening there when you log into your Ledger wallet? They send all your addresses back to the Ledger's server. So they know exactly your IP address and every addresses of yours. Not every addresses that you have ever used, but also every addresses that you will ever use in the future. So the point is that if you send from there to Wasabi, you mix and you send back to the same wallet, then Ledger will see that, hey, you sent some money out, it was mixed and some money came back, and it's the exact same money. So you didn't really mix anything as far as the Ledger company is concerned.
So what's the best way around that then? Is that to have a separate ledger to send them back to, or is it to just keep everything in your Wasabi wallet?
Keep everything in your Wasabi wallet. That was the best way around it. With hardware wallet, now we have hardware wallet integration into Wasabi, so now you can keep everything in Wasabi wallet, and that's great. You don't expose information to anyone.
Which hardware wallets are you integrated with?
So right now I got a Trezor Model T Vault card and the Ledger Nano S. But I am getting more hardware wallet models, and they are probably already working. I don't want to say anything because I didn't test them.
That's fair enough. So looking at the CoinJoin tab, it has this thing that says a target anonymity set 50. Is that you would mix with 50 other users, or what does that actually mean?
If you mix with 50 other users, then your coin will gain anonymity set of 50. So, it's really interesting because if you mix again the exact same coin with 50 other people, then in theory, and that's what the Monero people will tell you, and the other people will tell you that, hey, you just gained anonymity set of 50 multiplied by 50, which is a very large number. And then you go to an actual chain and figure out, hey, there are not even that many participants who ever used Monero. So wait, what's going on here? So the point is that the anonymity set is not a perfect way to measure things, but it's a good indication. And we decided to not multiply, but only add them together. So if you mix a coin, let's say with 40 people and your target is 50, then that coin will be automatically remixed until it reaches at least 50.
Oh, I see. I understand. So there's a lot of things to think about on this CoinJoin tab. And again, I think of somebody like one of my friends using this. They've got different options. They've got the NQ selected coins, DQ selected coins, anonymity set. They've got the peers.
That's everything.
Yeah, there's lots of things on there to look at and think about. So it says clusters and privacy. And I looked at it and just went, because I don't understand CoinJoin. And I almost don't, in thinking of terms of a user, I almost don't want to. Do you think there'll come a day with something like the CoinJoin tab where I almost will have very limited options? I'll just say select coin, mix, and everything else will be done in the background. And I won't have to consider or see any of these other things on screen. Or are these intrinsically important to it? And are these things I need to understand? Or could it just be abstracted away?
No, let's address the elephant in the room. There is a technique called confidential transactions, which mask the amount, and it's not in Bitcoin, but it might get into Bitcoin in the future. Let's not make predictions. But if it would get into Bitcoin, then you would not need, so you could just see your balance and be happy with it. Okay, so failing to add confidential transactions to Bitcoin, we have to have these coin control features, or do we? Because we can still make optimal anonymity. So we can optimize a lot of things. We can send in coin joins. We can optimize. We can have much more space efficient mixes, and we can do a lot more things. And then the question arises: do you still need to look at your coins and do these kind of things even without confidential transactions? And I'm not quite sure. Maybe we will not need all these things anymore. in the future, but we are not there yet, right? This is the ultimate improvement of user experience to actually improve the protocol and see how far we can go with it.
So with confidential transactions, you won't need CoinJoin anymore.
Yes, you need CoinJoin, but basically every blockchain analysis heuristic relies on messing with the amount of looking at the amounts of transactions, and that's why they can make any conclusions, right? If you look at the block explorer of blockchain info or anything, you can make some conclusions, but not much. But if the amounts would be hidden, then there is not much conclusion to make anymore. So confidential transactions doesn't hide the link between one address and the other address. CoinJoin is what obfuscates that link. Confidential transactions just obfuscates the amount. That's why it takes long to let's say to mix one Bitcoin, because you have to do 10 rounds, because we have to spit out even amounts, because people come into the coin joins with different amounts, right? You come with 1 Bitcoin, I come with 5 Bitcoin. Now, how do we mix it? If we mix it in a way that you get back 5 Bitcoin and I get back 1 Bitcoin, then hey, that's an obvious link. Like you can see it from the amounts. Okay, so what do we do then? I get back 1 Bitcoin and you get back 1 Bitcoin and you get back another 4 Bitcoin. Now that's what mix, but only the 1 Bitcoin is mixed in that transaction. And with confidential transactions, because the amounts are basically non-existent, because of that, we don't have to mess with anything anymore. And quite honestly, if we could get confidential transactions into Bitcoin, then I would just throw out everything that I've been working on the last 3-4 years, and because it would just require much. So it's just so powerful that we don't need all these tinkering anymore there.
Is that Schnorr signatures?
No, Schnorr signatures makes CoinJoin smaller. That's nice.
Can you see how something like this becomes quite complicated for, say, somebody like myself? Is that we want privacy for all, but there's so many different technologies like working in parallel or different ways to offer privacy and fungibility. It can be quite confusing for somebody like myself.
Yeah, and if we keep talking about it, it gets even more confusing. But
I know.
Wallet is just, all this kind of stuff, how we are establishing your wallet balance without exposing any information to anyone is extremely complicated, yet you are not noticing anything about that. Right? People don't even appreciate that feature, but that's a super important feature because they just don't see it. I like these kind of things. So we already did something that's great and completely hidden from the user, yet it's working in the background.
So there's a couple of other things I want to ask you about before we close up. And I think I'm going to want to do a follow-up as well, because I'm going to stick with Wasabi and I'm going to keep using it and keep improving my knowledge. But I want to ask you about, firstly, one of the things you want to do for the future is have Android and iOS apps. How much more complexity does that add to your work? How is that work coming along? Is there any kind of timescale for that?
No, there is no time scale. Well, I hope Samurai will get there, and we don't need to give out any iOS or Android apps in the future. Oh, let's see. What is the blocker now? The blocker now is to how do you establish your wallet balance? Because that's the hard part, right? Mobile wallets send back the queries to a backend server, and then you expose all your information to their backend server. So that's obviously just kills privacy right away. And this is the hard part, how you are establishing your wallet balance. And yes, we can get there, but we have to do so many micro optimizations in order to not drain your battery right away in your mobile, for example. So we can definitely get there, but we were not thinking about it yet, because I'm really hopeful that Samurai will solve this issue in the next 1 or 2 years. If not, and if they are still not trying to solve it, then maybe there is something needed to be done about it. But again, they are trying to solve it. So right, they are selling the boxes, the dojo, they call it the dojo, and that's actually the right way. Of course, their wallet cannot yet interoperate with the dojo, but what that does is that's running a Bitcoin Core full node in your home, and that's what you are asking for your wallet balances. So you are not exposing anything to anyone except for your own Bitcoin Core full node, which is the best thing to do.
And the last thing I wanted to ask you about is Lightning. I'm not sure how aware you are, but I've been running a Lightning month on my podcast, doing lots of different interviews, trying to increase my knowledge of Lightning. How much exposure have you had to Lightning, and what's your kind of views on the progress with Lightning and how it works?
It's a good question, right? It has some usability issues. And let me tell you a story. I was talking with someone who is doing blockchain analysis, and he said that Lightning is terrible for them because they cannot de-anonymize Lightning Network. Now, I said the exact same thing, that it is terrible for me because I cannot build anonymity on Lightning Network. Now, it's not completely true. We said it, but it's kind of true, right? Because Lightning is just achieves unobservability in a way that transactions are going from node to node, and you may or may not lose the track of the transaction, but you cannot verify if the nodes were actually malicious and spying on you or not. It's really interesting. I'm really excited to see. I'm really not happy about the user experience that we have. And I'm really not happy about that we are building applications like what Bitfury is doing, that they are making Lightning to use super easy, but you are basically losing all your privacy. Like we just worked out so many privacy things in Lightning for nothing, and if these kind of things become the standard, then Lightning Network is not gonna be better at all. But there are so many ways Lightning Network can turn out right, and it's really up to us, the people, that are we going to use watchtowers? Those are helping us to establish our balance, to watch our channels, or are we going to come up with a bit more complicated but more privacy oriented solutions? It's up to us. It's not decided yet. The user experience is not great yet. I think we can get there. Lightning is, from a user experience point of view, it's much harder to build good user experience on Lightning, and I'm not happy about it, because even on Bitcoin it's hard to do it, but make it harder.
Are you a fan of Lightning?
Yes.
You are. So what are the difficulties that you're having on building on it?
So on the conceptual level, you are sending money to other people through Lightning nodes. And as we can see in how networks are actually built out, like the internet is, everything goes through Google and Facebook and a couple of big companies. So it may be the same with Lightning. Anyone who says that, hey, it's going to be centralized, he doesn't know. But anyone who says that maybe it's going to be decentralized. He has no clue either. So it can, right? Because the more Lightning hops you have, the more private your transaction is. And that's the point. But if everything goes through one hop, what you are doing, then because that hop is so interconnected that it's just much more convenient to use that hop, to use that guy, then these are the issues with Lightning and the issues with actually what we have in Bitcoin, right? Because you have to onboard to Lightning from Bitcoin, and you have to offboard from Lightning to Bitcoin. Big question. Or do you have to really offboard, or are we just gonna use Lightning? The issue is that we have no idea how people are going to use Lightning, so we don't really know that what should we concentrate in terms of building privacy on it. But I mean, it's obviously blockchains don't scale, so we cannot avoid Lightning. So there you go. We have to figure that out eventually. Yeah.
Again, we're just super early. So look, this has been really useful, and I don't want you to think I've been hypercritical. It's more just I'm trying to use these technologies and tools as somebody who isn't technical and trying to work my way through it. I'm going to stick with Wasabi. I'm going to keep using it and learning it, and hopefully we can catch up again and talk through my experience in the future.
Thank you very much. One more thing, please click on help and support, or help and bug report, and report the bug, because this doesn't happen. Like, I never met someone who couldn't start Tor. It's like it must be some very exotic thing, like your antivirus company deleted Tor.
Do you know what it might be? So usually I have to give access to new tools. So I use antivirus software. So it might just be that. So it's probably me. So I'll have a play with it. If it doesn't work after that, then obviously I'll submit it as a ticket, but it's almost certainly that.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, listen, look, let everybody know how they can find out more about Wasabi. They can find out more about ZK Snacks and the work you're doing, and how people can get in touch if they want to reach out to you.
Yes. wasabiwallet.io is the website. That's where you start with Wasabi. And if you want to learn about Wasabi, then you might type in Nopara73 and Medium blog. And I wrote hundreds of privacy articles in the past years, so you will probably find something that interests you, hopefully.
Brilliant. Look, thank you for your time, Adam.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, so what did you make of that? Are you a user of the Wasabi wallet? And if you are, and you want to help me, if you want to get in touch and talk me through it, get on Skype, look, I'd really appreciate it, because I do want to play with it. I do want to understand it more, but there's things I just don't understand. So it'd be really helpful to get someone who's a bit more experienced to talk me through it. What do you feel about my criticisms of the UX? You know, with something like this, do you feel like people should just put in the time, they should just learn it? Or do you think it's more important that these things are abstracted away? I fully appreciate and understand they're early, and I fully appreciate the work they're doing is important. I'm just talking about my experience of using it. It was too difficult. And, you know, if I'm struggling with it and I can't figure out how to use it, I won't. I'll just carry on using the wallets I've already got. Still, I'm very interested. I want to know how CoinJoin works. So yes, if somebody wants to help me, please do get in touch. Please do reach out and give me a hand with understanding how it all works. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed the interview. If you do want to discuss it, you can reach out to me. As I said, my email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com. And also, just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the show, whatever you do, whether you just listen to the advertisers, whether you check them out, whether you review me on iTunes, whether you get in touch and you tell me that you like my work or tell me that I'm an idiot. It doesn't really matter. It's all super helpful. And if you do want to support the show, I'm not going to go into everything this week. I'm actually really super ill and I just want to go to bed. But there is a section on my website. It's at whatbitcoindid.com. There's a support section you can find out there. And yeah, I'm off to New York next week. I've got Consensus coming up. I've got so many interviews planned. I'm going to be moderating some panels as well. So lots and lots happening there. I'm probably going to be hosting a party as well. So if you're going to be heading out, you want to come to my party, which will probably be the ropiest event in Consensus all week, keep an eye out on my Twitter. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, my email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com.